Interesting to talk to you because you've always had such a great, bright perspective of what America has been and what it can be.
Yes.
And I definitely feel over the past couple of years that optimism, that shining city on the hill vision of what America is fading for not only just Americans in general, but even conservatives. I mean,
yes,
I think
it very much is.
We're losing faith a little bit.
Yes.
In this experiment.
Yes, because quite simply put, you're not teaching the narrative. Your story, and it is a story, is the best story man ever came together to write. And it is a success story. Just look at where we are right now in 2020. Look what we're doing right now. We're on TV, we're on an app called the Blaze Media, where people can watch anywhere around the world. You have two people with microphones, with suits, with glaring lights, with cameras, with TVs. This is a modern day tech phenomenon. You know, there's people who lived in the history of the world could never even dream of what we're having right now, let alone achieve it. It happened because of an idea. It's the best story ever written. But here's the sad thing, you've stopped telling that story. I'm doing all these speeches. You know the number one comment I get, no matter what state I go to, Republican or Democrat or moderate or purple? I loved what you say, but it's been so long since I've heard it. Why is that? Why have you stopped teaching your narrative? Because your story about your principles, there's a reason you changed the world. You're the greatest country that ever happened, but the idea is not making America great, it's making you exceptional again. Because you did things, you may hate what you did, but you did things that no other nation has ever done. You spoke about individual rights, you spoke about liberty, you talked about the idea of pursuing your happiness, that you have a right to keep the fruits of your own labor, and you have a right to be left alone and not be controlled by the government. This is the greatest story. There's so many stories in your nation that if you told right, you would spark the flame of liberty. But you're not telling them. It's all political. It's left versus right, Trump versus never Trump, Biden is good, Biden is bad. Yes, the politics needs to be discussed, but you need to lay the foundation, and the foundation is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, but more importantly than that, it's the Declaration of Independence. And if you start telling these stories, you win, because you solve every problem that you face right now.
You know, it's interesting because we do tell the story of America these days, but it's a story of slavery.
Yes.
It's a story of oppression.
Yes.
It's a story of inequality. All of these things are now the narrative.
Yes.
You know, homophobia.
Yes.
All of these things that, I mean, look, does that exist in this country? Yes. In fact, it exists in every country. And in fact, at much higher rates in most cases. But our country, our media, seems to be invested in telling Americans that they suck, that this country is a failure, and all it does is hurt people.
Yes.
What narrative should we be teaching?
So on that narrative alone, right, on the America's dark days, I think the sad thing about my friends on the political spectrum is my friends on the right tend to think America's awesome, America's great, blah, 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 and there's no bad. And the left seem to go, oh, America sucks, America's racist, America's violent, there's no good. I think what you need to do is you need to tell the stories of the good things, of the founding principles that we spoke about, but also share the dark days. You know what's sad for me? You know all the left who say all the blah, 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 to quote Greta Thunberg, racist, evil, vile.
Sure.
I know that your dark days better than they do. So I will talk in my presentations about the Battle of Wounded Knee, where you murdered and slaughtered 250 Native Americans. I talk about Roe versus Wade. I talk about the Supreme Court cases of Homer Plessy versus Ferguson. I talk about Dred Scott. I talk about Korematsu versus the United States. And I share these are evil, vile and racist stories. Do you know what the common denominator is? Government. And the reason I say embrace your history is this. If you shared these stories and then say, hey, this is the fact. Yes, America's racist, but here's the case of them. Who in their right mind would then go, yeah, and this is what we need is more government? The case of, if you understand your history, is no, this is actually why government should never, ever be that powerful. We need to stop government. And if we embrace those stories, the freedom narrative wins.
Yeah, you know, and I come back to this, you know, racism is collectivism. I mean, it's just it's an idea, it's a collectivist idea. It doesn't make sense from an individualist perspective to judge people by the color of their skin. And so you see government put this into force over and over again. You know, a government that is limited, a government that is consistent with our founding, does not have the power to implement these things. We know that there were huge mistakes and it was not always applied correctly back in the day. We know that. But we're in a different place now. And if we could get this through our heads that government shouldn't be the solution to all of our problems, it won't be the cause of all of our problems.
Exactly. But also you're starting to see the American spirit wake up, where you're starting to go, don't look for government to be the answer, you be the answer. You're seeing this with the ranchers. I saw, because I do have major disagreements with a lot of conservatives. Remember the slaughterhouses? I heard conservatives go, we need to break that up, that's a monopoly. First of all, it's not a monopoly when there's 4 companies involved. That goes against the definition. But no, the answer isn't in government to break it up. It's ranchers raising 300 million and creating. Education is a problem in your country. I heard you and Glenn talking about this week. It's an amazing story. Education is a problem. Stop looking for equity. Stop looking for the government to get involved. Go create the University of Austin. And that is what you're starting to do. Because here's the thing. You're creators. You're innovators. The best thing you can do is start innovating and creating again and telling people, yes, there's problems. Yes, there's a load of issues. But if you find a problem, go solve it yourself and don't look to the government. And that's what's starting to reawaken. And by the way, this is not a left message or a right message or a Republican message. This is an American message. And I think if you find this narrative, you will start solving every problem that you face.